She was supposed to be there. Every camera had already been positioned, every microphone tested, every staff member briefed. The 2025 Weibo TV and Internet Video Summit was running on a tight schedule, and Shen Yue's interview was one of the most anticipated moments of the night. But minutes before she was called backstage, she disappeared. No warning, no explanation, just a sudden cancellation that left everyone scrambling for answers. And when the news leaked that Dylan Wang was scheduled to appear immediately after her, everything changed. Fans began connecting dots the media never intended to show. Because this wasn't just a simple scheduling mishap. This wasn't nerves. This wasn't an accident. This was personal, deeply personal. And everything traces back to a relationship that neither of them ever confirmed, yet neither of them could fully escape. Tonight, we dive into the moment the entire internet can't stop questioning. Why did Shen Yue cancel her interview minutes before meeting Dylan Wang? And what really happened backstage when the cameras weren't rolling? Shen Yue had arrived early. She looked calm, polished, collected. Her team said she was in a good mood, even humming quietly as makeup artists added finishing touches. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't overwhelmed. She wasn't distracted, at least not at first. Not until a staff member entered with a clipboard, calling out the sequence of interviews for the next hour. She listened casually, smiling, nodding, until she heard one name. Dylan Wang, scheduled right after her. Their appearances were back-to-back. Whether planned or accidental, nobody knows. But what everyone saw was the way her expression shifted. Not dramatically, not obviously, just a single, small, broken second pause, like someone pressed stop on her heartbeat. She didn't say anything immediately. She simply looked down at her hands, then back up at the mirror, as though searching for something she had forgotten. A reason, a justification, a way to remain composed. But whatever she was thinking, it stayed locked behind her eyes. Minutes later, her assistant entered with a soft, worried tone. "Are you okay?" Shen Yue nodded, but her voice didn't match her nod. Her voice trembled just enough that the assistant leaned in, watching her closely. Something was wrong. Something was shaking her, quietly, deeply, beneath the professionalism she always displayed. And then, the message arrived. A buzzing vibration on her phone. A name on the screen she hadn't seen privately in months. A short, simple message. Too simple, too fragile, too perfectly timed. She read it once. Then again. Then again. Her eyes lowered, her breath caught, and the makeup artist noticed the sudden redness gathering beneath her lashes. She blinked it away quickly. A smile stretched across her lips, the kind you force when you don't want anyone to notice you're falling apart. Minutes before she was supposed to walk to the interview room, she stood up suddenly. Her assistant followed. "Is everything okay?" She nodded again, but she didn't look back. She walked toward the hallway, as though guided by instinct, not direction. And then she stopped, right in front of the backstage corridor where she knew Dylan would appear any minute. Her hands were trembling now, just slightly, the kind of tremble that comes from too many memories trying to surface at once. Memories of a partnership that fans celebrated. Memories of laughter, teasing, moments that the camera couldn't fake. Memories of the kind of chemistry that becomes real when nobody is meant to see it. But also memories of distance, of drifting apart, of coldness that neither of them intended, but both of them felt, and of a final conversation months ago that ended quietly, cleanly, gently, but painfully. Shen Yue leaned against the wall, breathing slowly. She could hear staff moving around. She could hear people calling names. She could even hear the faint, unmistakable sound of Dylan's laughter from down the hall. A sound she had tried so hard not to remember. A sound that pulled her right back into the moment she had spent so long healing from. Her assistant touched her arm softly. "You don't have to do this." But Shen Yue shook her head. She wasn't running away. She wasn't scared. She was overwhelmed. Not because of him, but because of everything she wasn't ready to face again. She took a few steps forward but froze when she saw a large screen nearby, showing the live feed of the event. And there he was, Dylan Wang, already backstage, already being mic'd up, already adjusting his hair with that familiar mixture of boredom and charm. already smiling that smile that millions loved, including her. And that was when she made her decision. Not out of bitterness, not out of fear, but out of honesty, honesty with herself. She was not ready. Not tonight. Not when every emotion she had packed away so neatly was suddenly unfolding all at once. She turned to her assistant and whispered just one sentence. Cancel it. Her assistant didn't argue. She simply nodded, understanding immediately. Within 40 seconds, the crew was informed. Within 50 seconds, her segment was removed. Within 60 seconds, someone somewhere leaked the news. And within 5 minutes, the entire internet was spiraling. But backstage, the truth continued without the cameras. Because Dylan heard it. He heard that she canceled. And the moment he heard her name, he stopped mid-sentence. Something in his eyes shifted. Not anger, not frustration, but a mix of confusion and something unspoken. He kept glancing around as though expecting to see her, as though part of him believed she would still walk in, as though he wasn't ready for the distance either. People around him tried to distract him, but his gaze kept drifting toward the corridor she had been standing in moments before. He lifted his mic. He adjusted his collar. He practiced his lines, but his mind was clearly somewhere else. And behind a corner he couldn't see, Shen Yue stood still for a long moment, hearing the muffled announcement that her interview had been officially canceled. She exhaled softly, clutching the edge of her jacket, not because she regretted it, but because she wasn't sure how much strength it would have taken to stand in front of him again. It wasn't heartbreak. It wasn't regret. It was a wound that healed but still stung when touched. A quiet ache, a tender bruise, a memory that remained warm even after it ended. Shen Yue walked away from the corridor slowly, not dramatically, not in tears, just quietly, like someone stepping away from an echo that once mattered too much. Her team guided her through a side exit to avoid crowds. She kept her head down, eyes soft, lips curved in a faint, tired smile. Outside, the night was cold, and she wrapped her arms around herself as though grounding her heart back into her body. And inside, Dylan continued preparing. But he wasn't the same. He looked distracted, unsettled. He kept glancing toward the door she didn't walk through. He didn't ask out loud, but everyone could see the question written all over his face. Why didn't she come? And maybe he already knew the answer. Maybe he understood. Maybe he felt it too, that some reunions need more time, more air, more healing, because sometimes the hardest person to stand next to is the one who once stood closest. So why did Shen Yue cancel her interview minutes before meeting Dylan Wang? Not because she was unprofessional, not because she was avoiding him, not because she wanted to stir rumors,